Normally when watching anime or any show of that matter, I solely decide if I'm going to watch it or not by its poster and promotional material. As a veteran anime watcher and watching TV shows for as long as I have, trying to escape from our kingdom of bullshit into a reality better than our own that I can obsess over, on my initial outlook of the show I thought this would be a run-of-the-mill comedy series I can watch in the background of doing my job and have a laugh here and there. Suffice to say how horribly wrong I was. Inside Job is the next show I'm absolutely going to obsess over because it's awesome and easily enjoyable and funny. And like many shows in the pipeline of adult entertainment and animation cartoons, Inside Job shares similarities to Rick and Morty like how Family Guy shares similarities to The Simpsons and how Solar Opposites shares similarities to the Futurama. Inside Job is a show that capitalizes and critiques the era we live in through conspiracy theories and mythology, essentially being a show about stories about the stories those stories tell us about people in society. With the overarching show revolving around Reagan and her father, Mr. Robot, aka Christian Slater, who I'll be referring to as Mr. Robot because I love Mr. Robot as a TV series because I'm a software engineer and because Reagan's father is voiced by Christian Slater, who plays Mr. Robot. Anywho, in this show, every conspiracy theory in our reality is real, but has a minute twist to the lore that makes it all the more interesting, but not how you imagine it. Most of the world of Inside Job is controlled by a deep state shadow government that manages and fabricates those said conspiracies and supernatural hiccups. Why? Because according to our protagonist Reagan, society, more importantly humans, needs to be organized, and that's what the shadow government provides. And if there was ever a case when things are disorganized, entropy will lead to a constant state of chaos that the human race will never recover from. Whereas Mr. Robot believes differently, saying that if the deep state shadow government continues to pull the strings on the world like a marionette, pushing their agenda of what they perceive as a proper new world order should be, will only lead to a tragic end of all sentient life residing on the earth. To elaborate, in one episode is explained that Deep State, aka Cognito Inc., which spells out incognito if you put the .inc in front of the cognito, which is one of the many multinational corporations and criminals that run the world in the universe of Inside Job, are deliberately causing global warming to terraform the earth to make it more comfortable for lizard people living on the planet so they can potentially take over the planet when humanity dies out. And to stop a war between Atlantis, the lizard people, and humanity, which would all but certainly destroy all life on the planet. Then there's conspiracies about the moon landing. The moon landing being fake not because astronauts never went to the moon, but because the people that were sent to the moon stayed there and refused to come back, forming a moon colony, fearing that considering how they know how the world functions, the deep state would eventually collapse and it'd be better to live on the moon when it happened, and potentially return to Earth at a later date and recolonize it. This show even addresses the ridiculous flat Earth theory, and is addressed by revealing that Earth is actually hollow, and in actuality there's horrifying monsters and septarian species living underneath the planet, with the show's opening hinting that one of these sentient life forms underneath the planet, namely this jellyfish squid thing, is responsible for giving apes sentience, which evolved eventually into humanity. How is this possible? These jellyfish squid things empathically communicate with one another and understand the emotional spectrum of other sentient creatures and is able to telekinetically communicate with them, which hints to more theories about how the human mind can ultimately operate at a higher function greater than 10%, and we would unlock all these said abilities if we could access more power from our brain instead of the standardized 10%. So mythology-wise, Inside Job's world building is a backdrop to a more sinister outlook of our world, and the characters amplify everything we know about our reality and contextualizes how the normalcy of everyday life can be used to manipulate and control us as people. And at the center of this is Reagan, a brilliant yet dysfunctional, cynical scientist who is ill-equipped to handle social necessities and has severe social anxieties. Then there's characters like Brett who juxtapose her and are capable of revealing the humanity within the character, using his people skills, kind of like Todd from BoJack Horseman, to show people the best of themselves and sometimes the worst, which ultimately showcases how Reagan wants to use Cognito Inc.'s resources to make the world a better place through covertly controlling it as Cognito CEO one day. Other characters include Gigi, the public relations officer and head of media manipulation and subliminal messaging at Cognito, GR, the current CEO of Cognito, Glenn, a humanoid dolphin hybrid super soldier who oversees Cognito's weapons and arsenal, Lee, a free-spirited yet obnoxious biochemist who experiments with a range of unusual narcotics and also addicted to all of them, and finally Mick, a psychic mushroom-like jellyfish organism from the hive mind of a deep, monster inside of Hollow Earth. So yeah, in summary, Inside Job is a fun show. Its premise is dumb, but those are the kind of premises that are really fun and dumb, and I like them. If you believe it sounds good to you, give it a shot for yourself. I give it a 9 out of 10, or an 8 out of 10, somewhere in that range. I also forgot to mention, there's also a more puzzling conspiracy within the show, with the very fact that our ensemble of characters are merely avatars of a more secret, more sinister, more evil organization of Gravity Falls-like triangle-headed, pyramid-headed mystery beings that are pulling the strings on our protagonist, whereas other multinational criminal organizations and corporations are at war with one another, vying for control and power to dominate the world. So yes, to me this is a very interesting show.